Is it worth it to buy a used bike? That's what I want to ask you guys. See, I'm the kind of person who always likes to buy new things rather than used. I really like to take care of my things and make them last long. But when I was looking for a new DH bike last year, I was thinking to myself, this time I'm okay with getting something used, especially since I don't have as much money to spend and I really do want to have a 26-inch DH bike. I did a lot of research on what I would like, and ultimately I am actually very happy with the Devinci Wilson. Now, there is a crucial mistake that I made when buying this bike that I will never make again, and I want to make sure you guys don't make this mistake either. Basically, I didn't give myself the chance or the time to really check this bike out properly to see if it was really worth the $2,500 I spent on it. Basically, I was just trusting the seller's word that it was in mint condition, and I did ask him a lot about the bike through texting just to kind of ensure that I would be getting a good quality bike. And basically he says that, he only ridden it about 10 times in the past 2 years, and I thought that sounds pretty good. He said he was not the original owner, but he knew the guy that he bought it from, and that the original owner had upgraded many of the parts on this bike, so not much of it was stock. He was saying the bike was pretty mint and that the rear shock was just newly rebuilt just before I got it. Now, just to meet the guy with the bike, I needed to travel about 5 hours and across 2 ferries just to get to him, and so I really wanted to make sure that this was worth my while, and I was feeling comfortable and confident that this bike will be great for me and worth the money. So I committed an entire day to traveling there and back. Now, to top it off, I only gave myself about 5 minutes max to meet the guy after the ferry, look at the bike, pay him, put it on my bike rack, and then get back to the ferry for the return trip, since I would literally be taking the exact same ferry back that I came on, which would leave about 5-10 minutes after it arrived. So I was in a really rushed state. I needed to make sure I got back on that same ferry so I didn't have to wait so long for the next one. Now, that is not something I will ever put myself through anymore when buying something used and worth this much money, since I really didn't know what I was even buying. He basically just told me that the front wheel was just missing a spoke, and that's about all. Otherwise, it was all running great, he says, and I believed him since I didn't have the time to discover the multitude of issues I would soon find. I mean, when you first get on the bike, the first thing you notice is the suspension, and it really did feel nice on this bike, and so of course that feels great and that's wonderful. And one of the first things I started to notice was there's some major top out in the rear shock, and so I took it to the bike shop to ask them how exactly to fix that and why that was, and they noticed that the rear coil was really damaged with a whole lot of paint chips. I had never even seen that before, and that the coil was tightened way too tight, which causes a lot of stress on the shock. And so I did get a new coil as well as new frame bearings at the same time, and that did seem to help a bit. And then I quickly noticed that the rear rotor was actually bent, so I had to replace that, of course. So I didn't realize at first, but I soon found out that the whole rear triangle is actually not the original rear triangle. And so that means that this bike must have gotten wrecked pretty badly to require those replacements. And even with the replaced rear triangle, the chainstay also had a dent on it still. I didn't for sure know it was a dent until I peeled back a bunch of tape and paint that was put over top of that part of the chainstay. Then I realized, there's actually a dent here. The wheels really needed a truing more than just simply putting a spoke on the front wheel. They were both pretty wobbly, and there's also a flat spot on both wheels, most noticeable on the back one, of course. I would see comments from people saying that these wheels are bomb-proof. I mean, if so, then this bike literally went through a war. But I did get the wheels trued, so they're certainly better than they were before. Now, one of the really annoying things I found is that this hub is actually slightly shorter than what the bike would fit, which would be a 150mm hub. And so that means you're slightly squeezing the rear triangle into the hub to make it fit properly. But when I did that, I realized that with my new rotor, the brakes would constantly be rubbing up against the disc. And you couldn't adjust the brake pads anywhere further out. They would always have to be rubbing against the disc. And so what I ended up having to do is put this washer there. And some bike shops kind of didn't entirely recommend it, but I mean, that's literally the only way I can get this wheel to be rolling normally. The rear axle also didn't seem to line up perfectly with the rear hole, and I thought that, maybe it was just that the axle was bent, and I'm not sure if it really is, but we ended up discovering that it must be because of the chainstay having that dent in it. That must be prying the back end out slightly so that the axle doesn't quite line up. I mean, I was noticing that it was really annoying to take the back wheel on and off, and then I realized, that must be why. It's because the axle just doesn't quite line up properly. And I mean, there's some other things you could just see, like the damage done to the bash guard. Looking at the skid plate, it just, I don't know, like this bike honestly went through a war, it looks like, no joke. I just don't really know how you do that to a bike. I guess I've just never really done that kind of damage to a bike before. Well, okay, maybe I should watch what I say. But still, it just makes me worry, like, how was this bike really treated, you know, to have all this damage to these parts, and it just does not look normal. I mean there were some bolts that were getting kind of stripped, so they're harder to take out. There's a couple really weird little things, like the rear brakes were in the wrong holes of the chainstay, so the brake pads weren't 100% on the disc. One of my shock bolts was actually too short. They were both the same length, but the top bolt is supposed to be longer, and so that means that the top bolt was always kind of half in the nut, so that was sort of weird. So yeah, there's some weird things like that I need to fix up. Me and my friends also bled both my brakes, but we realized that the front brakes still didn't work properly, and then when the local bike shop told me that, oh, the front brake lever is actually leaking, you actually need a whole new brake lever, so I will be getting that pretty quickly here. So yeah, I've been having a lot of frustrations with this bike, but the cherry on top of all of this was that I discovered that it wasn't even the size large frame that I wanted in the first place. And this was actually back in November when I discovered this, after doing some measuring myself, and I got a local bike shop to confirm that this blue frame was actually a size extra large. And well, that just pissed me off so much. I mean, I ended up just putting the whole thing for sale, and I was thinking of just giving up on this bike, and basically I would just find another size large Devinci Wilson. I ended up having a couple offers to trade the front triangle with some people that wanted to upsize their bike, and so that seemed to be my best option, so that is what I ended up doing. So we spent an evening swapping everything onto his front triangle. This time I am not using paint thinner to clean my frame, I'm just using WD-40. I have since learned that you do not want to use paint thinner on carbon frames. I apologize to you all for my mistake. After swapping the front triangle, I got to learn a lot about how my bike is put together and how to take my bike apart. And I really do like to learn more about bike maintenance so I can do more work myself in the future, and that way I can make sure things keep clean and in good working order. It was when we were swapping the front triangles that I really realized I need to get this new chainstay sooner than later so I can help line up the rear axle properly. Now, for some reason it didn't come in matte black like I wanted, so I just painted it with semi-gloss black spray paint. One thing I love about getting something like this is I see it as a blank canvas to put some of my creativity to work. So I decided to give it a custom paint job. So I matched the yellow of the frame and painted my own stripes onto it, vaguely resembling the original paint job for this bike. The original chainstay says Devinci, but I made it say something a little bit different. I think I ended up spending about $1,000 on fix-ups and everything, and maybe a couple upgrades, so it really would have been more cost-effective and stress-free to just get a brand new Devinci Wilson when they had some good sales on. But I'm not going to be too regretful, because this way I get a sweet 26-inch bike, and I think it looks great, and I'm actually pretty happy with this bike after all of my fix-ups and upgrades to it. I mean, I'm gonna buy like a brand new DH bike at some point anyway, but even when I do, I think I'll just keep this bike anyway. It's just cool to have an older 26-inch, really nice feeling DH bike, you know, and I'm really happy with how it feels. I just think it feels really great. The geometry is like perfect for me, and I just don't see a reason to give it up even when I do get new bikes. Now, my cranks are perfectly fine, but they certainly look faded, so I decided to take them off and give them a fresh new look. I sanded them with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then I gave them a few coats of spray paint, that same semi-gloss black that I was using. I'm really happy with how they turned out. Now, while I am painting all these parts, I might as well touch up a couple spots on the frame at the same time. And I also figure while my bike is apart, I might as well clean up these parts to make them look good and work as well as they can. Don't worry, I will still be replacing the splash guard soon enough. Back in 2011, I won a straight line package from some contests on Pinkbike. Now, I never really used this chain guide though, so I thought this would be a great time to finally use it. I'm really stoked on the color though. I think that the green works quite well with the color gradient of the rest of the bike. I'm not sure if I should have anything else in green though. I swapped out my handlebar with a Raceface Atlas. It's a 30mm rise, 785mm wide bar. The color is called Cash Money Gold. I think it looks really cool. Although I did buy it for my blue frame, I kind of think it worked better with the blue frame, and so I'm not sure if I would have bought the same bar if I had known I was getting this frame. So I don't know, what do you guys think? I have also been stocking up on some more parts like 26-inch wheels, rims, and tires. I mean, when I see a good deal, I really want to take advantage of it now, especially if 26-inch wheels are not being made so much anymore. So I got this old Sunringle Intense Mag 30 rim for just 30 bucks, brand new, but it is pretty old and it's kind of heavy, but I want to have some fun with it and make it look awesome. So I painted it just like I did with my cranks. I also bought this Hope Pro 4 hub used off of someone. It's in nice shape. And then one of the bike shops was able to find me some really good deals on whole complete wheel sets. So I paid just $290 for this whole wheel set with Alex, rims, Supra, BH, and then I put some of my own tires onto this thing, and these wheels are ready to go as soon as I get my new chainstay installed. I will be making another proper bike check video once I have finished putting all the other upgrades onto this thing. So I was really stoked to be able to get these 2.5-inch Magic Marys because I don't seem to be able to find these very easily for 26-inch wheels. I was able to get them for cheaper from one of my shops that could order them because they seem to be on clearance. So I grabbed two of them and they're actually pretty thick. You can see they're actually 64mm wide. That's actually the widest sidewalls I've ever had in any of my tires before. So I just love fat tires. I think they're just like the coolest thing. And I also bought this Maxxis Minion DHR2 for the rear wheel. The 2.4-inch. I've got lots of tires, I've got lots of stuff stocked up now, and I'm pretty stoked. You can always see the current build of this bike if you visit my profile on kit.com/JordanBoostmaster. The link is in the description. There you will find affiliate links to all the items which I use, and of course when you purchase through those affiliate links I get a small commission, and it's just a simple way of helping out this channel. You can also find lots of information on my website jordanboostmaster.com as well. So let me know what you guys think of the work I'm doing on my bike. Do you think there's anything I should change or change up or fix to make it look even more epic? And have any of you guys had any bad stories of buying a used bike or something like that where it was just a terrible experience similar to mine or anything like that? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I want to give a special thanks to my Boostmaster patrons. If you love downhill and freeride or just love riding mountain bikes, then consider subscribing. And if you like to see more content and keep me rolling on two wheels, then check out my Patreon page.